Introduction. Hello, I'm Casper KZ. Albums? Yeah! People recently have been listing their top 10 most influential albums on Facebook, which I hate because reading. So here I present the most advanced form of reading, a video. Don't worry, it isn't all death metal. But there's some death metal. Starting chronologically with number 10, The Downward Spiral by 9 Inch Nails. Yeah, I own CDs for some reason. Like a lot of them. I don't think I need to waste your time explaining what that album is. Released on March 8th, 1994, it was the second studio album by the Industrial Progenitors, centered around a man's descent into despair and eventual death by suicide. You know. Opening with Mr. Self-Destruct, of which I feel there are better remixes, and concluding with Hurt. What are you in for? Everything. That's what that song means now. And I do not feel that Johnny Cash's version is better. It is bleak, like all things Trent Reznor, and yet energetic and bombastic in its execution. A lot of 90s synths with a decent amount of distortion on them. The 90s was my favorite time for synthetic music. Everything was distorted and reverbed to within an inch of its life. Though I feel this is best represented in a single titled Nightmare by Brainbug. The entire catalogue of 9 Inch Nails serves as a demonstration of these techniques. I mean, they're not overly distorted or reverbed. You can certainly find examples of that being taken to another extreme. It is more dynamic than every genre it borrows from, however, to complement the emotional descent and mood swings of the protagonist, doomed to the powerlessness that seems to haunt Trent Reznor. If you have even a passing familiarity with 9 Inch Nails, you've probably heard the single Closer. That's from this album. Number 9, The Saw soundtrack by Charlie Clouser. I'm holding this weird. Just to stick with 9 Inch Nails for a moment, I worked as a composer for a time, and occasionally still do, and this album taught me a great deal. Not as much as Clouser giving a tour of his studio, but that was unavailable at the time. Come on, guys! I didn't get the internet till I was 21 or something. Now, this soundtrack is, I believe, mostly canned, or at least not acoustic. Brian Eno gave a lecture in the 70s that we all take for granted now. The studio is the instrument. Sounds are crafted by the production, such as the power of the audio workspace, especially ever since it went digital. This album is all distorted drums, which it's very easy to go too far with, and haunting atmos. I like horror tonally, it's gonna come up a lot. Space is used dynamically to upset, confuse, and surprise you. Lots of reverb and metallic percussion, and low-end strings EQ'd to sound like maybe not strings. I know Clouser makes a lot of his own original sounds with odd instrumentation. I say odd instrumentation, oriental instrumentation. But there are really two things I feel this album has achieved better than any other soundtrack, which is a hostile sense of urgency. Okay, well, The Matrix did that all right as well. And a sense of revelation wrought by what I consider one of the most iconic themes in all of drama. They used to play that theme in all the trailers until Inception introduced us to the blah. The only detraction I have for this soundtrack is that it's not all original score, there are also songs by bands. Yuck. But that beautiful theme alone is reason enough to laud the album. It is titled Hello Zep on the original soundtrack, but there is an even better expanded version on the Saw 3 soundtrack titled Shithole Theme. Number 8! ABBA Gold. Come on! Fuck you. Perhaps compilation should not count, but I'm pretty sure Fuck You, SOS, Waterloo, Gimme Gimme Gimme, probably one of the best pop songs ever composed. Number 7, Buikakes by Maximum the Hormone. Buikakasu. This one. Japanese fusion metal punk rap reggae pop music? This one's kind of their breakout album, featuring 3 songs from popular animes and debuting at number 3 on the Oricon charts in Wapan. Yes, it's pronounced Wapan. I bet you didn't know that. It's so very punk. It's so, fuck you, we're doing this. I have only the vaguest understanding of the lyrical subjects. Sometimes they don't even use real words, which means this attitude is conveyed in their musical style alone. However, I am aware of their largely ironic ethos. We're doing it because it's dumb. Of their catalogue, this album has the best production and songwriting, including the wonderful juxtaposition of Koei no Mega Lover. Starts out as a teenage anthem pop song, and then all of a sudden you can fuck off because it's metal. My favourite track is Bikini Sports Punchin'. You are welcome to tell me what the fuck that song's about. I'm gonna leave a link to one of their videos and you just go ahead and decipher that. Winnie? Number 6! The Shape by Dance with the Dead. I don't think you can own a physical copy of this CD. When you find yourself enjoying aggressive retro synthwave, you have to make this face. There's There's a combination of elements I find inordinate pleasure in whilst consuming Dance with the Dead. The giant reverberating 80s drum fills, the pulsing kick that never seems to do more than 4 on the floor, the very antagonistic sound of the distorted rhythm synths, the presence of heavy metal guitars, arpeggios to the moon. Nothing makes me want to dance more than doing it with the Dead. You can pick up their entire discography for just $32 US right now. The Shape and B-sides just happen to have my favorite tracks on them, but it's all variants of same. Number 5, I think? Occult Medicine by Aethertune. I am uncertain how that is pronounced, which is not a smart way to name your band. 'Tis the name of a character from the Elric of series created by Michael Moorcook in the 60s, which is somewhat irrelevant because the band only released 2 albums of note and they're both centered around the Cthulhu mythos. This band had rather a tumultuous history. They formed in France in 95, recorded multiple demos and full-length albums, underwent signings and re-signings and multiple lineup changes, and didn't get good until 2003. Recorded what I consider to be their second, but is technically their 4th studio album in 2006, and then disbanded in 2007. So I ain't never gonna see them live, but I'll always have this tremendously influential recording. What if metal, but cosmic horror? That pretty much set the tone for my playing style for the next 10 years. I want to make it weird and creepy, which you'd think would be impossible with a heavily distorted guitar. And you'd be right. You cannot really make horror music with metal because metal is largely undynamic. It is a wall of sound. But Aethertune showed me that you can still express the themes of existential eldritch horror through riffage. Also the fucking weird artwork in your album cover. Which leads me neatly to number 4, Torture by Cannibal Corpse. My favorite and most favorite and bestest band ever of always. Quintessential archetypical death metal. It is so fantastically, obnoxiously fucking brutal. You cannot really be present in the room with this music if you are not partial to it because it just will not stay in the background. There is no better vocalist in all of death metal than George Corpse Grinder Fisher, I feel. He is capable of growling at advanced tempos and is unusually articulate for death metal. Not that I care for the lyrics, it's all just gore, and I prefer cosmic horror. I mean, when you get Vincent Locke to do all of your album covers, your songs are probably going to be about zombies and gratuitous violence. Hammer smashed face. It's probably about a face getting smashed with a hammer. In keeping with the theme of gratuity, there's an awful lot of dissonance and tremolo picking of heavily distorted and down-tuned guitars. You know, metal, it be that. Most of the songs are in A-sharp standard, which is my preferred tuning, but some of them are in G. And they're all played on 6 strings for some reason. I mean, that's what I do, but I'll just copying them. Seems like we should all have 7-string guitars. This album, however, is produced by Eric Rutan, and I don't particularly enjoy his production. I think the most recent Cannibal Corpse album, Red Then Black, or Black Then Red, Red Before Black, whatever, it sounds like mud because of him. The best-sounding Cannibal Corpse album is the next one, A Skeletal Domain. But this one has the best songs, including what I consider to be the best riff in all of metal guitars, the verse to Followed Home Then Killed. Written by Pat O'Brien, this song and the rest of the excellent album released in 2012. It was the band's 12th studio album. Finally got good after 24 years. Number 3, Relentless Mutation by Artspire. Or possibly Artspire? It's not a real word. I've never really been into tech death, but I am now in regard to this one particular band. And also Soreption, they're pretty good too. Technical death metal always struck me as a demonstration of skill as opposed to a composition of music. It's like watching a juggling act with no narrative. I will now do 9 clubs. There you go, I did 9 clubs, everybody. Cool! But my favorite juggling act is Penn Jillette talking for 11 minutes and juggling for 30 seconds. Well, Artspire is the combination of both routines. Like, they're really good at juggling. It is incredibly technical, very fast, and steeped in narrative. I can continue employing that extended metaphor. It differentiates itself from Cannibal Corpse, archetypical death metal, by being less brutal and more melodically focused. Still dissonant, but much faster, and consequently filled with opportunities for exploration of the fretboard. It is an extremely busy sound, wherein all musicians are traveling at near off-the-rails speed, but it's kept comprehensible by the structure. Spencer Pruitt is my favorite drummer. Here's my impression of him. The lyrics are all weird fiction horror. It's 100% my jam. And I'm Australian, which is basically Canadian. Australian, New Zealander, Irish, Scottish, Welsh, Canadian. We all talk funny, We all drink a lot. I don't know how true the drinking part is for the Welsh, Canadians, or New Zealanders, but the Irish, Scottish, and Australians sure don't challenge that stereotype. And finally, number 2, because I've definitely fucked up somewhere here, Stop Making Sense by Talking Heads. The best live performance of any music ever, probably. I have seen almost all of it, even the stuff no one was there to witness, and this is just fractionally better than the time Jimmy farted Ode to Joy. Well done, Jimmy. I don't own a physical copy of this CD because apparently it belonged to my mother, so I've got to go out and buy that now, in a pandemic. Well done, excellent parenting. You never know what gifts you'll supply your children with. It does not make sense that they would enjoy your music. Did you enjoy your parents' culture and art? Were you into Bing Crosby? Perhaps a little, but you've your own art that speaks to you. I've death metal, and industrial, and orchestral, and aggressive retro synthwave. But Burning Down the House might just be the greatest song ever written. Neck and Neck with Sledgehammer by Peter Gabriel, if we don't count classical compositions. David Byrne disco punk gospel is probably what Mozart would have used in the modern era anyway, though, I bet, probably, right? Yeah. And I personally really identify with the lyrics of Psycho Killer and the bass line of Slippery People. I am that bass line. There's so many hits on this album. Of course there is, it's a live album. But I like them outside the context of the time they were created, so we're counting it. I don't really understand funk. I absolutely fucking despise religion. I am less than half of David Byrne's age. But the only thing stopping me from witnessing him performing funky gospel music on stage is this fucking pandemic. And money. I have none. I don't think it's fashionable to have money right now. But I've got the CD. Oh, wait, no, I don't have that. But I will, and then I too shall enjoy this fantastic ensemble. So there you go, everybody. I am the greatest and best at listening to music. We all understand that now. And there's no reason for anyone else to continue attempting to practice. Now, just because I feel I should probably round off a top 10 with at least 10 items, why don't I throw in some Fatboy Slim? Because I think it was the first album I ever owned. Or possibly Bumfunk MCs, both of which I still listen to. Freestyler. There's actually some good rhythm synths on that album. Otherwise, it's just a Finnish guy rapping about how he's rapping in 90s jive English. What I have learned from this experience is that I don't really listen to albums, only notice the difference in productions. That's why there's no Trumayon Katelot on here. All sounds like it could have come off the same album. Oosh. Yeah, I know that means yuck. I also really like Electric Six's first album. Anyway, what do you like? Is it music? Go ahead and list that, preferably in list format. I like lists. Do you like lists? Go ahead and list your favorite lists. Let's see who claims copyright revenue first. I don't think there's any Warner Brothers on here. Number 10! This one. My favorite thing ever. Yeah. 日本語話しません. This one, good though. Number 4, this one. Nope, can't remember. Everyone shut up! This bass line is all about me! I will not actually do 9 clubs, I can do 3. Give me control of the